You're not broke, you're dumb. You're just doing stupid things. If you cannot take care of yourself and you can't support yourself financially, the last thing on your mind should be women, period. Now that I really think of it, the only thing my mom ever told me growing up about my money was to pay the pastor. I mean, pay the church. No. I mean, pay my tithes. Once I got single, all the money came back.
I hate that you text me but act like a stranger in person. You're looking right through me. Last night I told you how I'm hurting. Fade away with all your friends. I don't wanna play pretend. Call me tonight, oh who cares, I'm just broken. I won't fake, not my style, you're too ruthless. Not a clue what you do, you just clueless. How it do, who are you, you confusing. You know I tried.
What's up guys, my name is Connie Joy and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new here, I knew you were gonna be back. So, we are going to be talking about something a little personal today. And honestly, I think we know each other well enough that we can talk about finances. I mean, you guys have watched 2 videos strictly pertaining to you guys that I made just for you, so that's pretty personal. I feel like we can talk about finances. So, I want to tell you a little story, just so you guys don't feel like I'm attacking you. Because I know that money is personal, and I don't want you guys to think that everything is all about money. But if you're a grown man, you obviously know that you need money to survive. Your existence is not just sustained by Mother Nature. You have to you gotta pay to live. And unfortunately, the leading cause of divorce is apparently related to finance. So if you guys are looking to get married someday, if you're looking to be in a relationship with someone, your finances should be in order. And sometimes I think that people just overlook finance because they just want to have a partner. And they just think that money doesn't matter. And to some extent, it actually does matter. So we're gonna be talking about that. Just to help rip this band-aid off, I'm gonna tell you guys about what I experienced, and hopefully that will actually give you guys a better idea about what it is I'm talking about specifically. I have been a nurse since 2012. For the most part, I've been broke, and I could never figure out for the life of me why I was broke all the time. It really was because I was in relationships with broke men that I helped support. So all of my hard-earned money would go to all of their random needs. So I never could see how much money I was even actually making. I knew I made a lot of money an hour, and I knew I made a decent amount of money a year, but I never got to see it. I was literally just throwing my money down the drain, being, you know, a nigga savior, and I was always at their beck and call. So it was costing me financially. So when it came to being in a relationship, I was really frivolous with my money. And now that I'm single, I'm actually very responsible with my money. But I could never see that. And, you know, the truth was I wasn't broke. I was just being stupid. It wasn't like I was sitting here saving men from anything really drastic. It wasn't like I was helping a man keep his lights on. I was wasting my money. I was out here wasting my money. So that's where my money all went, and I did this for a few years. So I just want you guys to know, I don't want you to think I'm attacking you. I did some stupid things too. I was very irresponsible. Now, the example that I'm going to give you guys to give you an idea, if you meet this criteria, if the shoe fits you, then you got some stuff you have to work on. I'm going to give you guys a really good example of a relationship that I was in a few years ago. And the guy that I dated is going to be a perfect prime example of so many men that are out here with the same mentality right now and could be watching this video. So I'm talking to you guys. So this guy that I dated, he had no criminal record whatsoever, squeaky clean history. He did have children, but he only got his children, he was only obligated to get his children every other weekend, and he by choice only requested them every other weekend and got them every other weekend, which left him with a whole week, a 7-day week straight without any interruption. So we had open availability for 2 weeks out of the month, 7 days straight, and then alternating, he had availability from Monday to Friday, 5 days straight, open availability. He worked a part-time job at a restaurant making, I think, $10.75 an hour, and then he worked an overnight job, and that job made, I think, like $11 or $12 an hour. But I had to push him to get the overnight job, and I mean, like, I had to really push him to get the overnight job. And it just blew my mind, because for the longest that he just worked a part-time job, it blew my mind that somebody can have so much availability and have nothing against them and choose to literally make pennies. That used to drive me completely insane, that he would choose to actually make little to no money. And I would always push him, like, yo, no, you have to work harder, or try and apply for a job where you can actually climb the corporate ladder. You need to have a job where you can actually grow. I always try to encourage him to get a job like that, because he didn't really want to go back to school. And I just thought to myself, there are so many people out here, so many men that want so much more and can't get further than what they have, because they actually have their past against them, and they actually really want to do something better with their lives. But we have men over here who literally have nothing against them, and they choose literally to have little to nothing, which makes no sense. Because me as a woman, and I know we're very different, but me as a woman, I can work a full-time job and a part-time job and raise 2 kids all by myself. And I'm not trying to compare, but I'm just saying that even if I had a criminal history against me, I would work my way around working 2 jobs still to make it work, because I would need to be able to provide for my kids. They're used to a certain kind of lifestyle, and I need to sustain that. I would, no matter what it took, I would do whatever it takes. And I don't have the availability to be gone as much as I am, but I would do that. So I didn't understand how I could date, don't think about how I dated this person. This is just an example, but I couldn't understand, viewing this firsthand, how someone could have so much availability and not thrive to do more. Because we were living together, and the cost of my bills, I could cover the cost of all my own bills, but when you live with somebody whose expenses are higher than what you're used to, you do have to work harder and make more money, because you're living a different lifestyle being here. I'm enhancing your life and enhancing your lifestyle, because this is the way that I live. So I'm showing you new things. So it's gonna cost you more money to live this lifestyle with me if you want to live with me. So that was the whole entire purpose of this man needing to work hard and make more money, because you can go home if you can't afford to live with me. I can still do this by myself without a problem. But he wanted to stay and live with me. So he needed to find a better job and make more money, because I'm not gonna sit up here and carry you. I have 2 kids, you know what I'm saying? And he had such an issue with that. And I'm just like, well, you have nothing against you. If you don't want to work 2 full-time jobs, or a part-time job and a full-time job, at dead-end jobs to meet me halfway, then you need to take your behind back to school, or you need to open up a business of some sort. I don't know what you need to do, but you need to figure it out, because you can't be here if you can't afford to be here. And I couldn't understand sometimes where his money would go. He felt like once the seal was broken, if he didn't have the right amount of money that he needed to give me for bills, once that seal was broken, he just figured, I'm just gonna blow the rest of my money. I'm just gonna blow it, because I already don't have what I need, so I might as well just blow the rest of it. And I just be sitting here like, you are so irresponsible. And finally, when I sat down and I actually collectively put together every single penny that he was making, and I started subtracting everything that he spent his money on, it was so clear to me. It wasn't really that he was broke. He was irresponsible as hell. Because even though he was not making the same money that I was making, and he was not expected to. I'm a nurse, he wasn't. Of course I didn't expect him to make the same amount of money. But he actually made it a decent amount of money where he could afford to cover his portion of the bills and still have money left for himself actually. This was after he started working his other overnight job full-time. And he was still actually being really frivolous with his money, and I couldn't figure out where the heck the money was going. And because a little $40 here, 25, 30 here and there, they add up. They add up, guys, they add up. He was just really irresponsible. So I finally, like I said, I calculated everything from his full-time job and his part-time job, and I'm just like, why are you actually broke? This doesn't make any sense as to why you're actually broke. Because now that I'm actually writing it all down and I'm looking at it on paper, it doesn't make sense to me that you're constantly broke. And it was because he was being so irresponsible. Sometimes you guys aren't broke, you're just irresponsible. And I'm not trying to insult you or come at you, because I myself too was very irresponsible at one point. I wasn't broke, I was irresponsible. So I couldn't see what I was actually bringing home. So, that being said, let's open this and really have a conversation about finances. Now, I'm no financial advisor, but obviously this is not something that's common sense, seeing as it's a mistake that many people make. But it's a common mistake that people commonly make. Now, I realized that when I started to really think about why I had the spending issues that I had, I tried to think back to when somebody ever in my life ever told me or taught me how to really manage my money. And now that I really think of it, the only thing my mom ever told me growing up about my money was to pay the pastor. Pay the church. No. Pay my tithes.
I understand pastors have to get paid too, but there are so many other implications that go into financial advisory than just paying the church and only prioritizing paying the church. Don't even get me started on these financial seeds we were planting every other Sunday at church, all these extra financial expenses underneath the church's roof that we had to always compensate for. I literally grew up being told that it was such a terrible sin if we didn't pay for our tithes. God sees what we're doing. We're going to be damned. A lot of us were raised with this mentality in church. So the only thing that we really prioritized was making sure we took out that 10% before we spent any of our check. So not only was I never given the right type of financial advice, but growing up and even as a grown woman, I was surrounded by a lot of people who made poor financial decisions. People that were older than me, people that I should have been looking up to. A lot of my elders influenced me in a negative way when it came to finances because they themselves did not have their finances in order whatsoever.
The only thing my mom told me growing up was to pay my tithes. So that's all I did. And outside of that, she didn't care what I did with my paycheck. I was paying rent as a teenager. I was also financing all of my basic needs. Anything that I needed as a teenager, it was my responsibility to pay for since I got my part-time job. And I was working since I was 14. So because of that, I actually never really knew how to manage my money from a young age because I didn't have enough money to actually support myself. And I was thrifty, but there still was not enough money at all. Like, there wasn't enough money. Like, I'm talking about, I was making I think a $200, maybe $250 check every 2 weeks. And I had to give 10% of that to the church. And then I had to use what was left over to pay for my phone bill, to buy my toiletries. I had to pay my mom rent. Anything that I needed, this was my lunch money too, anything that I needed, I had to use my paycheck to pay for.
Unfortunately, as a teen, I had already developed the bad habit of borrowing money from other people. Fortunately, I was only borrowing from my sisters, but all three of us didn't have what we needed to sustain ourselves as teenagers. We were kids already with adult problems.
And since there wasn't enough to go around, and I also was a teenager, it was 2000 and what? I became a teenager in 2000 and, damn, how long ago was that? Okay, like I was a teenager in the 2000s, put it that way. 2006 is when I graduated high school, but I was a teenager in the 2000s. I wanted to go out and have fun with my friends. I wanted to spend my money on the things that my friends got to spend their money on. You know what I mean? So I was very responsible when it came to money, because after I paid my rent and I bought whatever I needed for myself, I blew the rest of my money. There wasn't much to save anyway, but I always knew there was going to be another check because I was always going to go back to work because I was a hard worker. But my whole entire irresponsible spending did come from I was never taught. I was never told. Like, we know better, but no one ever actually put something in place like saying like, look, you take this out, you take that out, then you have the rest. I was heard growing up from like multiple mouths, you put up 30% of, you know, what you make. But nobody ever instilled it in me. It wasn't like my mom was checking on my account saying, did you put up your 30%? No, all they cared about was making sure that I paid the church, and that was that. So that was all that I cared about doing too, was making sure that I paid my tithes, and then the rest of my money was fair game. It was mine, I worked for it, so I spent it on whatever I wanted to spend it on. But I never developed, now I have, but I didn't develop good spending habits because of that. So that's a little backstory for you guys, so you don't feel like I'm attacking you. Everything's not all about money, but this video is about money, so don't get that twisted. Now, I have dated a couple of you, and I've watched how you spend your money. And even though you may be slightly outside of your means, you were also irresponsible with what you have. I dated a guy who was never like really responsible when it came to managing his money, but I mean like off the deep end, not responsible, like really irresponsible, like reckless, like you don't even care, like, well, like you must have a backup plan type of irresponsible. We can't all do the same type of stuff, but some people can when they have backup plans, or they have like security, like their parents will come and save them. So I dated this guy, and there was this time, it was a couple of times, where he was like $100 short his rent. Well, if he couldn't get that $100 for his rent, he would literally blow through the remainder of his rent money, because he felt like, well, I don't have the total and my landlord's gonna want the total, so I'll give it to him next pay. And I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with you? You have it. Why would you be so irresponsible? Your landlord will take what you have. Why would you blow the rest of your money? So what is wrong with you? And I'm just like, see, you're not broke, you're stupid. You're not broke, you're dumb. You're just doing stupid things. Don't be that guy. Don't be my ex, okay? Don't be my ex. That is dumb. That is so stupid. Guys, you have to do better. And I know you can do better. Get your stuff together. If you cannot take care of yourself and you can't support yourself financially, the last thing on your mind should be women, period. If you do not have your finances together, you do not need to be looking at any mind your business. Worry about yourself and get yourself together, because you have nothing to offer right now. If you're a grown man, you don't have anything to offer. You don't, unless you can build a house from scratch with nothing. You don't have a lot to offer right now. And that does not mean you're not a good quality man. It just means you need to work on yourself. It doesn't mean that there's not a woman out there who's gonna want you. There's definitely someone out there who's gonna want you, I'm sure of it. But you gotta come a little bit better than that, honey. You need to get your finances together. I'm sure you guys are great. I'm sure all of you guys are really, really great guys. You can't not be able to sustain yourself. Like, and what I mean by take care of yourself, I mean the cost of you existing. Calculate the cost of you existing, and then look at your paychecks and do the math. Do you have enough to put up 30% of your check, pay your rent, and if you don't live by yourself, if you don't contribute a portion of your check to rent or mortgage where you stay at, then you just literally don't need to be looking for anybody at all. Because what can you offer to a woman? You have to move in with her, which is totally fine if you have your own place that you're moving from. But if you're moving from somebody's couch to somebody's house, you don't really probably understand what it really means to pay rent just yet. You don't know what it feels like to have that chunk of your check going to rent. So if you don't understand that responsibility, it might be really hard for you, and you might struggle with actually giving that money up when it comes time to pay rent the first of the month or the mortgage. You get what I'm saying? So it's something you have to adjust to. And if you aren't managing your money already, you're not going to handle giving up that much money to live somewhere because you're not used to it. So if your phone gets cut off every couple of months, if your phone gets cut off twice a year, and twice a year is pushing it. I'm saying one, sometimes you might forget, an emergency, things happen. Two, because hey, 2020 was crazy. We don't know what 2021 is going to hold. But if your phone gets cut off more than twice a year, phone plans are cheap, like really cheap. If your phone gets cut off more than twice a year, this video is definitely for you. Get your finances together. I mean, phones are really, really, really cheap. Plans are really, really cheap. And I just kind of think that at this point, when your phone bill's due, you know how much it costs. It's going to cost the same amount next month, and the month after that, and the month after that, and the month after that. So we're adults here. If we know how much it's going to cost, you got 30 whole days to prepare for that. And like every provider will give you an extension. Like, come on, maybe 48 hours, maybe a week. Depends on who the provider is. But there's just too much leeway for some of these dumb mistakes. So don't be stupid, make smarter decisions. Just don't be dumb. You can do better. Like, you really can. I know you can. Just do it. Like, just do it. It's not even that hard. Just do it. You're gonna feel so much better if you just do it. If paying your phone bill seems to be a struggle to do it every time it's due, why don't you actually pay your phone bill this month and next month and get it out the way? Just get it out of the way. Just do that and get it out the way. Oh my God, you're gonna feel so much better. Plus, if you forget that you did it, you're gonna have extra money that you forgot about, because you already paid for it last month. You're gonna forget, and you're gonna feel so good. And that might actually make you just begin paying bills in advance so you can get them out of the way, period. And there you go. Look at you being more organized. Look at you being more organized. You're welcome. So rent, yes. Okay, so everybody has at some point been late on their rent. Everybody, it happens to everybody. I'm not gonna sit up here and pretend it doesn't happen to me. It has happened to me plenty of times, and I'm so much better with it. So much better with it. But here's the reality about rent, and I can understand why landlords can get pissed off. Because it's the same price every single month, and it's due the same time every single month. So you got all these weeks in advance to get it together and figure it out. And I think that, sometimes it's really hard when you are, the sole provider, and you don't really get to do a lot for yourself. So sometimes you just feel like being selfish, but being selfish is irresponsible when it comes to finances. As an adult, you have to be responsible. You don't have a lot of leeway to just make reckless decisions, and you need a place to live. This is being an adult. That's what being an adult means. I've learned to just put up checks that are strictly for rent, and put up checks that I can have strictly for me and the kids. And that's how we do it, plain and simple. I just put up what is for me, and I put up my bill money, and that's that. And I had to learn to get into that system because I couldn't figure out why I was broke all the time. I'm like, I make all this money, and yet why am I so poor? Why do I feel so poor all the time? So I just really just started being more responsible. I've seen this pattern in quite a few guys, so that's the reason why I was just like, look, it's not even that you're broke, it's that you are not responsible. So once upon a time, I used to survive off $322 a month, and that was in cash assistance off of welfare. And they gave me food stamps, which was separate from that, obviously, and that made me really, really humble, but it made me really thrifty too. And I had to make it work no matter what happened. Any emergency that happened, I had to make it work all the time. And that's how I knew that I wasn't managing my money when I made so much more money as a nurse, because I was broke. And I was broke before when I was on welfare, but that was different. I was under different circumstances. But I had times when I was, you know, being a nurse that I was broke, and I'm just like, how am I broke? And then when I actually, you know, alleviated the guys I was dating, all the money started to come back. Once I got single, all the money came back. No, I wasn't broke. I was broke because I was dating broke people. And I was always trying to save them, but I'm all saved out. I can't save nobody else at this point. You will probably pass out, choke to death on my watch in front of me because I will not save you after all the niggas I done saved. It wasn't until I just sat down and really calculated all the money I make in a year between my full-time job and my part-time job that I realized that it was because I was just being irresponsible. So even if you are making basically like little to no money, if you are wise, you will budget. Now I know a lot of men's complaint is, I don't make a lot of money an hour. Okay, well then you need to actually, you're gonna need to actually stop living above your means. If you can't afford the cost of your rent in 1 week, then you don't need to stay where you're living. Now that's the renter's rule. Now I've lived places before where I couldn't afford my rent in a week, but I did what I had to do to make sure that I still paid it. Just because I couldn't afford it didn't mean I wasn't going to pay it, so I did pay it. It cost me a week and a half of my income to afford my rent, but that's what it took. I had to take my income from a week and then take my income from half a week of the next week to afford it. But I did it because I needed a place to live. That's just called survival of the fittest. You guys know what you have to do, right? So if you can't afford the cost of your rent in a week, or I'll give you a week and a half, I think that's fair, then you don't make enough money to live in a studio or an apartment or wherever the heck it is you plan on living. You need to do better. You're grown. You cost a lot of money just to exist. You have to do better. Whatever it takes, you gotta do better. I mean, think about it. If you can't take care of yourself, you really can't do anything for somebody else. If you have an unlimited supply of name brand shoes, Jordans and Nikes and like the newest shoes that are out, but you don't have a car, then you're not broke, you're just irresponsible. If you get the latest iPhone every single time a new iPhone comes out, but you're grown and you live at home, you're not broke, you're irresponsible. And I don't mean you live at home because you choose to live at home. I mean you live at home because like you can't afford to leave home. It's not because you're broke, it's because you're irresponsible. Like, I don't know how many examples to give you guys. You can pretty much figure out what it is that I mean. If you seriously just choose, it's a choice. It's literally a choice. You want to have what you want and what you need at the same exact time, but you're willing to sacrifice what you need for what you want. You're not broke, you're just making stupid choices, like really stupid choices. And I see today more than before, people make way stupider, way more dumb choices than they used to do back in the day. I mean, dumb choices have always been made, but people have seriously tried to, people glorify some of the stupidest things, and they glorify irresponsibility. It sounds so dumb to say. People glorify irresponsibility. If you're not going to be financially responsible, women are not going to want to seriously be stuck with you. It might work out in the beginning just because there's always some desperate woman willing to give up everything for the sake of a man, just for the sake of having one. But eventually she's going to resent you because you're going to be a burden, because you're the equivalent to like another kid. You're literally the equivalent to another child who has the nerve to want special treatment for being a man half the time. You truly can do so much better. So work on doing better. That is the end of this video. I hope that it was informative. It was very honest. And I mean, what else do you guys expect of me? You know, I'm gonna be honest with you. And I really hope that we can get past this. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hope to see you guys all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.
You confusing. You know I tried, don't hear my line. You know I tried, don't hear my line. stranger in person.